Everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. Today's webinar, we're going to be completing the puzzle with OnBase 15. It was just released a couple weeks ago, so we are ready to tell you some new and exciting things that come with OnBase 15. Our customer care group, as you can see, our picture still has Gabe in it. Gabe is no longer with us. Kathy Hughes joined us about a month ago. Hopefully, when it gets nice out and the snow gets off the ground, we can update this picture, although it's not as nice to do in the snow. So we'll take care of that, and hopefully for our next webinar, you will see a picture of Kathy. Just like any of our webinars, the audience is muted. There's the chat window on the screen. You can always add questions or comments. There's a survey at the end of the webinar. Please fill that out. We're always looking for new ideas. If you have an idea of something you would like us to present in a webinar, either add it there or go to support@naviant-inc.com and send us your request there, because we're always looking for new content. So if you have something you'd like to see, we would love to hear from you. And today's agenda, of course, with any new version, what's changed, what have we added, and then Andy here is going to do a demo of some of the new stuff that 15 has in store. And with that, I will turn it over to Andy, and he will tell us all about 15.
Good morning, folks. So 15 was a pretty quick development in terms of OnBase development time. 14 came to us in September last year, then 15 is available now. It's a pretty short development cycle. Even with that, there are some pretty big changes. The first of that being, there is a major part of OnBase that's gone now, and it's gone forever, and actually it's probably a good thing that it's gone, and that is the DM Corax. You guys might know that better as your VB scripts that use function main. Those are all gone, and they no longer work in 15. This can cause some upgrade headaches, for sure, for any VB scripts that run in thick client or in thick client workflow, where you have an OnBase client running as a service doing your workflow timers. It's probably because you have some VB scripts in there using function main.
Highland also did actually a pretty nice thing with 14. And if you have any of these VB scripts that were running in function main, in 14, they are all red, and they have a box below them that tells you that they will no longer work in 15, which I just did an upgrade recently to 14 a couple months ago, and many of their scripts will have to be rewritten if and when they decide to go to 15 or higher.
Exactly.
So it was actually a nice thing that they put into 14 for those people that went to 14. You had at least a little warning as to exactly what was going to break. It actually showed you also in the studio what changes were going to be to 15 and what would no longer work. So it was actually really nice of them to do that, so that those that went to 14 had something to base it off of if they want to upgrade.
Yeah. So you can get around it by rewriting your scripts, as Jen mentioned. You can rewrite them in Unity scripts. That's the preferred method. Technically, sub-main 35 scripts still work, but they are still thick client only, and Highland is no longer actively developing them. So you'll have to rewrite your function main scripts into Unity scripts. And actually, Highland's got a great legacy API group on community. You guys are on OnBase community, where they talk about changes you need to make to your scripts to make them Unity scripts. So it's a good place to start. Another big change is HTML forms are now stricter on their standards compliance. Officially, follow the IE9 standard, which I'm not sure what that means, but I think it means that we can use HTML5 now, and I think it means that we're loading MS HTML in strict mode. So you need to be a little bit more diligent about your HTML code in your eForms.
With that said, that is why we always recommend that you put this into a test system and test everything first.
Yes.
And that will be of the utmost importance if you're going to 15.
Absolutely. If anybody was using the Web Services Toolkit, it's been replaced by the Unity API Toolkit. I don't think we have any customers using it, but just a good thing to know. So, onward, what else has changed? App Enabler now requires a Unity client running in a service, running in service mode. I think there is already licensing out there to let you do that, where you can't log into the Unity client, but you can run it in service mode for App Enabler. That's now required for App Enabler, which is okay because we also get, because App Enabler has gone fully core-based, we now get the data capture server for OCR, which does a better job at OCRing the screen, and actually the, I don't have that in there. The licensing for that, we'll go over that in a minute, is actually really nice. There's a free license available for data capture server if you're using App Enabler. So, onwards, legacy DRIP, the directory import processor. The old one that uses XML files and runs as a separate file, or runs as a separate process, is no longer supported. Highland recommends moving to the new graphical DRIP client that was introduced in 13. Just a note that the distribution service that sends out all of your emails was changed in 15, and you need to upgrade all of your distribution service to 15 before you attempt to send any distribution service requests, or weird things happen. There's some major changes to the Outlook integration. It now stores all of its user settings in the database instead of the local machines registry, which is excellent. Because of this includes like folder configuration, and because of this, users may have to reconfigure their settings once, and then they'll be saved forever. So what else has changed? There's a couple of things that have changed in 14. Since most of our customers are still on 13, I'm going to go over some of the things that changed in 14 that are still present in 15 as well. One of those things is the subscription server, where you could bulk import emails off of an Exchange server. That has been changed to Mailbox Importer. That changed in 14. It became core-based. It was no longer a DM core-based separate executable. You configure it in configuration. And the good news is that your old subscription server will still work via the old subscription server client until your Mailbox importer is configured. So you can, there is definitely the possibility to upgrade without losing a single email when you're moving to 15, despite this big change to the Mailbox importer. Another thing that changed in 14 was workflow config. They pulled it out of the thick client config. It now only exists in OnBase Studio. And new in 15, I believe, is so you can now turn on or off custom queries from mobile.
I will go ahead and jump in here. So with the release of 15, OnBase released a new application for Windows 8.1 and for iPad integration, or the iPad app. So there's now an OnBase 15 app. And with that app, you need to have, if you want users to be able to do custom queries from those two new 15 apps, this mobile device accessible option in the settings tab of your custom queries needs to be checked. If you are using an older version of the app, like I personally have an iPhone, and there's not a 15 app for the iPhone yet, so I'm using what they're calling the legacy version, or the older version of the app, I can still see my custom queries without that checked. But if you're going to have users download the 15 app and begin to use that app for iPads or Windows 8, you will need to have this checked for users to see those custom queries. So it's right under the workflow options in the custom query settings screen on the right-hand side of the screen. So
yes.
We did some testing with that in-house and found that nice little feature.
Yeah, it's a good way going forward from 15 on. It's a good way to restrict custom queries that your mobile users shouldn't be using. Of course, you need to have a 15 mobile app for it to work. But let's see what else has changed. This is a big one, browser support. With a new OnBase version comes new browser support. So right now, the ActiveX web client in 15 supports IE9, IE10, and IE11. They also say IE12, but that's not out yet. That's not even in the Windows 10 preview yet. But anyway, that's on Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Server 2008 R2 and 2012 R2. The HTML web client grows ever more compatible. IE9, 10, 11, Safari 5, Update 10, Safari 6, Update 5, 6.2.x, 7.1.x, and now Safari 8. And the Firefox ESR version has been bumped to 31. This is a big one, though, that a lot of people have been asking about. When will OnBase support Chrome? And it kind of does in 15. Chrome 10 Plus is supported in custom forms that use login form proc, which I don't think we have anybody who does that. Shared Unity forms, which is pretty major. And also form pop, if you're using form pop. PDF pop, which actually we figured out worked in 13 Service Pack 2 for Chrome. And then also the public sector constituency web access, which is for Highland's new OnBase local government push. That also works in Chrome. So they're expanding the Chrome support. It's not quite there yet.
Yep, hopefully we'll see some more of that going forward. So
yeah, there are a lot of changes in this release, so there's a lot of incremental improvement so far. So with that, what's new? Now we've gone over what's changed, so what is new? So our new stuff. We've got the Office Web Application Server. This is, oh, we have a question. All right, we'll take that question from Marv. Yeah, actually, I believe this will eventually, once they release 2016, I believe 15 will be your coinciding version. There's a lot of extra support for Epic in this build of OnBase, including Epic's mobile app. There's built-in support for Epic's mobile app in this version as well. So yes.
But we would definitely want to verify, test and verify. But yes.
We're not sure yet, but I would imagine that this is the release that will coincide with Epic 2016. Assuming they release it this year. So moving on, this is kind of major, the Office Web Application Server. It's a framework that Microsoft developed for helping with the cross-platform compatibility of Office documents. What it means for OnBase is it means you can access Office documents stored in OnBase without having Office installed. Now you get read-only access only. You'll still need a full Office install to edit the documents, but this works in the thick client, Unity client, and the web client. In 14, it was actually a feature in 14. They were kind of working on it, and it only worked in the web client. Now it is available for thick Unity and web clients. So that's pretty major. It's a complete re-architecture of how they work with, how Highland works with what we used to call Olay documents, Office docs. And they were no longer using Olay, which is great. So OnBase Studio now supports interactive NT authentication. Studio has always supported NT auth and single sign-on, but it always signed on as the user you logged into the workstation as. In 15, you can supply your own credentials. specify the domain, login name, and password. And we mentioned this earlier, OnBase Mobile has been rewritten for 15, which has resulted in a new iOS app for the iPad so far. Should be coming out for the iPhone soon. And a new Windows 8 app for tablets and phones. And one of the first major features here is that if you export a mobile-specific URL, it will open the corresponding app on the phone or tablet automatically, which is a nice feature. Another major feature is the interface translation engine. So OnBase has always been multilingual, but only its interface, let's see how to explain this, only OnBase's interface has been translated. When you would go into, say your machine started up in Mexican Spanish, all of your menus and your toolbar buttons would all be in Spanish. But then when you search for a document, all of the auto name strings, all of the keywords would all be English, or whatever the main language of that OnBase install would be. It would all be English. The interface translation engine allows you to translate your user-generated content, and it allows you to export those translations. Probably the easiest way to view this is in 15's new Unity Forms Designer, where you have a button right there for managing translations of Unity forms, which allow you to translate like label text and stuff like that on the form itself. So this is really major, and it stores all the changes in the database, so they come along with you along upgrades. Really helpful for multinational or multilingual organizations. Moving right along, we've got a refreshed WorkView interface. Because we're using IE9 now to render our views, we get a smoother looking interface with better visual cues. Now the text field that you're working in WorkView will be highlighted with a nice little soft round rect highlight. A little easier to manage and easier to figure out what you're doing instead of just looking for your blinking cursor. We also got AnyDoc integration in your scan queues now. With just one checkbox is all you need to send scanned documents to AnyDoc if you're using Highland AnyDoc. Also very nice. There's another major feature. It's not quite ready yet. Unity scan formats are ready. You can make them global. So if you have an organization where you have, say, 5 Fujitsu scanners of a particular model, they're all the same model scanner. You figure out a really good scan format on one of the scanners. You can save that scan format and then share it, make it a global scan format, and all of your other Unity client users can use that scan format. It's really handy. The import-export did the same thing, but this is basically 4 fewer clicks. This is the one that's not quite there yet. They're working on it, and that is, you can probably understand why once you understand what it is. Unity scan queue process customization. You have scan queues in Unity. Normally they go through, the steps of scanning, indexing, document separation, QA, whatever, and those are fixed and you can't change them. Well, now in 15 you can, or you will be able to. You can add additional QA steps. You can reorder the steps, and then they'll be active for all users of that scan queue. They'll show up in Unity Client, Web Client, and Thick Client. They're only modifiable in Unity Client, but that is I'm sure you can think that is a major overhaul of how scan queues operate. So it's not quite finished yet. Working on it. I really wanted to demo it today, but not quite there yet. So, WorkView. WorkView hasn't really technically, it's not really new. I guess this would fall under changed. Although, if you're still on 13 and you're using WorkView, WorkView went through a major change in 14 where it got reintegrated into the OnBase database schema. And that was a major change, which also opened up the ability to edit WorkView objects, classes, and views within OnBase Studio, which is also really great, major change. WorkView in 15 has been the focus of a lot of updates, improvements, fixes, and new features. One of the new features is a new interface for Outlook, specifically Outlook 2013. This is a unique feature for OnBase to have this level of integration with WorkView, with a data management product. It's fully integrated into Outlook. It's a completely new interface. If you've used the Outlook WorkView integration before, the one for 2013 is integrated. So for example, where you can make an import folder in Outlook, so you import documents, put them into workflow, you can now do the same thing for WorkView and add attributes and objects and classes and put them into workflow right from Outlook. It's very, very big. Alrighty, so workflow in Studio. Lots of little updates. One little update that I'm sure everybody will appreciate who works in workflow, when you select an icon for your queue or ad hoc task, it will now finally select the small icon for you of the same name. It's the little things, guys.
Instead of having to grab them both, you only have to grab it once.
Correct. More major, the item generator has gotten some upgrades in 15. You can now use an existing document as a base document for generating items. And you notice it's called item generator, as it can now generate WorkView objects and drop them into workflow queues. Along with another major change being random dates and times, including document date, any date time keyword, and queue entry date critically. So if you're doing queue entry date math in your workflows, you can now test that math with the item generator, which is excellent. So along with that, still in workflow, we've got some new and enhanced functions. If you've ever used set attribute or set keyword to expression, you've used these functions. And there are a bunch of new ones. These are not all of the new ones. These are just some of the ones that are new or updated. You can see like convert wildcard to regex, array value. Yeah, I'll talk more about arrays. We've got some cool stuff in arrays later. One I want to look at really quickly is captures. Captures is a new function that replaces the replaces function. If you've ever used replace to extract strings out of substrings out of a large string using regex, you're going to really like captures. It allows you to, it's purpose-built now for extracting smaller strings of data out of a large string, say like a file name that's got maybe a branch name or branch ID, and then a username, whoever uploaded it, and then maybe a date on it. We use regex, regular expressions, to pull that sub data out of the large string. You'll use captures to do that now, and it's a lot easier than it was before, trying to kind of kludge it together with replace. So that's cool. Lots of new and enhanced functions in workflow, and actually that's going to be part of my demo later. So what else? What else we got? More workflow stuff. This is nice. Workflow will now lock related documents while it's doing rule evaluation. Normally, releases previous, it would only lock the document it was examining. Now it will lock all of its related documents as well to prevent people from people or processes from modifying them while it's trying to evaluate a rule. You can now have an unlimited number of keywords and property values in the display HTML form action. I'll just wait for a minute while you guys process that, because that's really major. We used to be limited to 3. If you built your own form, if you had workflow generate your own HTML form for user input, you only had 3. Now you have an unlimited number. That's pretty major. The assigned to user action now supports customizable prompt text, which is nice because now you don't have weird or confusing prompt text. If you're actually assigning a user for, if you do a couple of user assigns, say you have 4 ad hoc tasks, and 2 of them are 2 different user assigns for 2 different, completely different functions. Now you can change that prompt text, so it's more clear when they click the button. What user do you want to send this to for approval versus, please select a user from the drop-down. Or what user would you like to send a notification to instead of select a user from the drop-down. Much more clear. Replace keyword. It can now get the data from properties, finally. And that's not just the value to find, but also the value you can replace it with. You can pull those out of workflow properties now. The display URL action has a test button. So when you put your URL in, you don't have to go through and actually do the ad hoc task from Unity client anymore. You just hit the test button, see if it comes up correctly. This is big. Like I said, there's some more array support now. Set property value now accepts arrays, which means that it can iterate through an array and set multiple properties. We'll get into that in just a minute. That's also very cool. It can also be set to more system values than before, like lifecycle ID or disk group path. There's a whole bunch, there's about a half a dozen more system values that it can accept. But this is probably the single biggest change to workflow that's most useful. Set multiple property values. You no longer have to have, if you need to set 10 properties, you no longer need 10 set property actions. You can have one and set all 10 of your properties in that one action. Consolidates workflow, makes it a lot more readable, a lot easier to debug. Big, big, big change. So, continue on. Workflow got a lot of love this release. We have a new action called Rebalance Queue, and it performs the same action as going to queue administration and rebalancing the queue manually, which is nice. You can have timers rebalance your queues now, in case people are off and on vacation or whatever. You can have specific, using the new event-based workflow that was introduced in 14, you can have an event that if someone has too many things in their queue, you can rebalance the queue. Cool stuff like that. Create note now allows you to cancel creating the note, and you can also specify, if you do want to create the note, you can also specify what page the note appears on so that all of your notes no longer appear on the first page of your document. Little things that are very helpful. Check document type can check against multiple document types. So again, you don't have to have 8 different check document types rules and a giant true-false nest. You can just check multiple document types in one rule. The split document action supports PDFs now, which is cool. Set keyword value from autofill now supports external autofill keyword sets, which is good. A rendition exists has been changed. Its name has been changed to check document file format because it's basically what it does. It checks to see if it is a text file or an image file or a PDF file. So it's a little less confusing now. I believe this is our last workflow thing. First or last document is now first or last item because it can now work on workview objects. Nope, I lied. There's still more workflow. In this case, this is stuff you can see. We now get an inbox toolbar. It shows up on the top of your inbox, gives you quick access to refreshing filters, routing things, tasks, stuff like that. To turn it on in 15, you need to check the display inbox toolbar checkbox. All right, something other than workflow, Unity Forms. Unity Forms get some major updates in this version. So first and foremost is the new translation engine is now supported by Unity Forms.
And something to keep in mind, you're now going to see this in 15 in your ribbon at the top of your screen. But this import and export is for translations only, not to import and export your Unity form to put it into another, like to export it out of task and put it into production.
Correct.
This is for translations only.
Yes, that is, exporting the actual form is still done in Studio.
Yep.
Another big one, we now get dates and times. The date and time data type. We can now put that into a text field, and you get a nice date picker and time picker when you click on one. So that's excellent. More stuff in Unity Forms. This is really big, really big, guys. New custom action, execute Unity script.
Yes, I read something yesterday where this was the most asked for enhancement, was to be able to execute a Unity script from a Unity form. So in 15,
you got
it.
It's there. And there's a new thing that makes this even better. You get a new widget, the condition button. That's right, it's a button you can put anywhere on the form and will do anything you want it to, including executing Unity scripts. So the possibilities for Unity scripts have grown by leaps and bounds now with 15. Leaps and bounds. You can talk to an external database.
You can do a lot more.
Yeah, so you can check on the statuses of some docs in a queue somewhere. Anything you can do with a Unity script, you can now do on a Unity form with a button. Very big, very big. So eForms, along with getting the update to IE9, also get a new property. You can get the current user's email address. And this works in regular eForms as well as workflow user forms. So you can finally get that exposed to you from OnBase. That would be the email address that's recorded in OnBase in your user's configuration. You can grab that through a property in an eForm, which is good. .comp now, templates are now locked if they're being worked on by more than one user. So multiple people can't edit templates, which is good. App Enabler. App Enabler gets some big updates. The biggest update to App Enabler is tag-based configuration for text screens and OCR screens. This is really, really major. If you've got a text screen that occasionally, your data that you're trying to extract will move down by a line and completely mess up your data extraction. Well, it doesn't anymore, because as long as it says like amount colon, you just set that as a tag and you'll always get what's in the amount field. Works just like tag dip or tagged cold. You no longer set XY coordinates, you no longer set line and offset. You just use the delimited data, and it's way, way more flexible if your on-screen text layout might change unexpectedly. That's a big, big feature for App Enabler. The other one that I mentioned before is that it can now OCR via the data capture server if you've got it. It'll still do its normal OCR, the ad hoc OCR that it was doing before, but if you have data capture server, say if you're using idle or you're using any of the other AnyDoc or batch OCR, barcode process, any of the ones that use the data capture server, App Enabler can take advantage of it and get the better OCR quality from data capture server. It also brings clear type support for IE9, which is good. The ad hoc on-screen OCR doesn't work with clear type in IE9, and that's needed if you're using a 64-bit IE. This is the only way to OCR 64-bit IE screen is to send it to data capture server because of that clear type. It also supports non-Latin characters, which is good. It is, like I said, it's totally optional. You can still use the normal OCR engine. I'll talk in a second for licensing. Everything I've found in the released documentation says that you can get a license for data capture server if you're using it for App Enabler at no cost. It probably means it's going to be a $0 PO, I guess. But if you've already got it, if it's already doing something in your organization, like I said, if you have idle, you can just point App Enabler to it, and that data capture server will say, oh yeah, it's an App Enabler request. Here you go, here's the data for that OCR. So it's good, it's flexible, and it's cheap. I don't know if we've got anybody using web services publishing, but if you are, it's now been updated to have feature parity with EIS for outbound operations. So updating autofills, executing custom queries, executing Unity scripts, doing medrec updates, composing documents in .com, etc. If you're using web services publishing, it got a major upgrade in 15. What else we have? Oh, Office Business Applications. You get a workflow button now, and the workflow button consolidates some of the other buttons that were in the, I think in the Outlook client that now show up in Excel and Word. This allows you to execute workflow on an open document or show its position in a queue from within Word or Excel. Reporting Dashboards gets an update, gets a new web interface. Very cool from what I've seen demoed at Highlands. Haven't gotten it to work yet. I think it's still being worked on. Works in a lot of browsers, i.e. 8 or greater, pretty much any version of Firefox, Safari, even Opera, and the Android browser. You can select dashboards to share from your reporting dashboards interface. I'll actually demo that. If you haven't used reporting dashboards, that was a new feature in 14. I'll give you a quick demo on it in a minute here at the end of the webinar, so you can at least see the reporting dashboards interface. So where can you learn more about OnBase 15? One place is from us. We're doing sysadmin training from April 27th to April 30th this year. I know we've got a pretty large number of signups for that.
Yep, here in Verona, so you don't have to travel all the way to Ohio.
Scenic Ohio.
Yes, which is really nice for those that are local and those that are in the outlying areas that are really not that far.
Then we're also doing an introduction to workflow training in June, and this is not just for learning workflow. If you are determined to never learn workflow in your life, this will also teach you OnBase Studio, which is kind of major, and Highland has indicated that that's where most of OnBase's configuration is going to move to in the coming years. Getting familiar with OnBase Studio is not a bad idea, and this workflow class will work exclusively in OnBase Studio, so you'll get a good introduction. Learn by immersion.
Yep.
There's of course Highland training for OnBase. Highland's going to do a What's New in OnBase 15 webinar series starting the week of April 13th. I believe it will be the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of that week. I think they're planning to release 3 webinar videos. They'll go over all the new features that we covered here, and probably in greater detail than we had time for here. And then of course, if you're a premium subscription member, you can get web-based training and videos on Highland's website under the premium subscription. So without further ado, did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to say that under the premium subscription, they have a nice webinar about all the new changes to Unity Forms in 15, along with a 15 overview as of right now. But I would expect in the coming days and weeks that there will be more data and more information there.
So, everybody's favorite part, let's do a live demo. I've got all my cables plugged in this time, so it should work. All right. So, what do we want to show first? Let's look at the Unity forms. Fire up my Unity client here. Of course, I had to do an IIS reset on it yesterday. All right. So this is the 15 Unity client. Looks pretty familiar. Anybody else who's used the Unity client? There are a few new buttons up here. If you are on 13, there may be a few things here you don't recognize or a few things that are missing. For example, that go away. For example, where is my dashboard button? Well, that in 14, or your dashboard button, your Unity Forms Designer, that moved to a new section called administration, and 14 also added a whole bunch more administration options up here. You can do DKT administration now from Unity Client. There's some basic user administration from Unity Client. User option policy administration. Tell users what policies, what options they can change. So let's start with the Unity Forms Designer. We'll open an existing form. Sure. Okay, really basic form. Nice and simple. But here we've got this is what we mentioned earlier, our translations, our translation engine. And you can see I've got a Mexican-Spanish translation of this form available now. We'll go over that in more detail. Well, I've got to take a closer look at it in Highland's documentation, because I think you have to export the form, do the translation, then re-import it to the translated form. Then you've got the translated form. So that's the same. We've got our new widget. Where'd he go? Condition button. Here's our condition button. Look at that. We can make it do whatever we want. We go to custom actions. Add a condition button clicked. All right, so let's make it our one condition button. Add an action to it. Let's hide one of our elements, although we clicked it. Make that hidden. So we have a condition button. We run the form. No, I think that was on the other page. Yeah, hides our section for us. So yeah, condition buttons. Good stuff.
You can also do other things, like if the one example that they used in the Unity Form 15 webinar was you could create a reset button, which allows you, like if somebody puts in the wrong vendor number, it could clear that information instead of them having to go in and clear each of the fields manually. And then when you put in the new name or the new number, it would repopulate. So, which is a nice idea,
yeah,
you know, for your users.
Very flexible.
Yep.
Great new feature.
They continue to add the Unity forms every release, which is really nice.
Let's take a quick look at reporting dashboards for anybody who hasn't seen it before. This is reporting dashboards. You can make new dashboards here. I've got one pre-made that I want to show you guys because we're running short on time. This is an accounts receivable aging dashboard. So we've got accounts receivable invoices that are past due a certain number of days. Looks like we don't have a whole lot in here. Looks like we've got a few that are past due. They're all from 2012. Let's test this and make sure it works. So I'm going to go into OnBase Studio. I'm going to use the item generator in OnBase Studio to generate some AR invoices, and then I can show you this this reporting dashboard. So we'll load up Studio. We go to the Workflow tab up here. We go to, let's expand this so you can see everything. Over here in the corner, you have item generation. We'll go to my item generators. You can see I've got 2 generators built already. So let's generate some past due documents. So it creates 80 past due invoices. Boy, wouldn't you like to see that on a Monday morning? Where did all these invoices come from? And then we'll also generate a slew of current invoices. This will make 20 current invoices. So the item generator is used for testing your own workflow. In this case, I'm using the AR outstanding invoices workflow. And in this case, I'm checking a date to see if it's past due. So I've just dropped in 100 invoices with random dates in them. and they're going to drop through this workflow and arrange themselves according to how past due they are. So let's go to my workflow. Right, so now you have 100 invoices in this current invoice queue. They all went through the invoice entry queue, moved into current invoices. I'm going to execute my timer because I don't have timer service installed on my VM. So we'll run our timer. So it would normally run every 15 minutes, could be a couple of hours, depending on how frequently you guys get invoices. And here we see we've got a distribution of past due invoices. Anything over 90 days goes into this call to queue. And then we've got 1 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90 days overdue. Okay, so let's look at the dashboard then. So we'll close workflow, go to our dashboards. Hey, look at that. Our dashboard automatically updated. So we can see that we've got the majority of our invoices are current. Actually, the majority of them are past due. The screen's kind of wonky. You can see by the size of the slices, we've got a pretty even distribution of invoices here. But most of them came from March. Obviously, I just generated them. But we have a few that came from February and January, ended up in our 61 to 90 days past due. So that is reporting dashboards. And with 15, you can share these dashboards out You can share it out to other users. You can also send it out as a hyperlink through the reporting dashboards web viewer. You get basically the same interface you see here. I have a grid element here that shows me all of the invoices in the system, and this is in real time. There's updates every 20 seconds. I added a pie chart element that gives me this AR aging by queue. I just tell it what queue does it show up in workflow. That tells me how many days past due it is. Then I actually look at the document date, which I randomized in the item generator. It tells me when these documents came into the system. I just put that into a bar chart. So it's really, really easy to make these. I think this dashboard took me, having never looked at dashboards before, it took me about a half an hour to build this dashboard. So they're really, really simple to make. And as I said, it's real time. This will update every 20 seconds. So if you have a high volume queue, you can set up a few dashboards to watch it, and you'll see your data move through the system really easily. All right, so let's go back to workflow. I want to show you some of the new workflow functions. Don't close OnBase. Go back to Workflow Studio. So I've got a demonstration lifecycle here. Hide our AR invoices lifecycle. So here's my demonstration lifecycle here. Very simple. I have an initial queue that moves, would normally check a little bit of work on the documents and move them to their processing queue. Here, new functionality. So one of the things I wanted to show you was captures. This is the new function that lets you use regular expressions to capture something out of a file name or some long string of data. So I'll show you how this works. It's a lot easier than the old replace. So if we go to test here, I've got this written out already. So what we're looking for, if you look through this regex up here, we are looking for 6 characters that can be letters or numbers, capitals or lowercase. So let's test it with a value of, let's say, something 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll notice we've only got one thing in this string that's actually going to match this. It should be the ABC 1, 2, 3. So let's see if it does. We'll set that as our test data and we'll test it. And it doesn't quite work. I have to check the regex, but it comes back with your 6 characters. We get the ABC 1, 2, 3. So we know it's going to come up that way. Let's make it look for a dash at the start and the end of the string. So that would bring back just ABC123. There it is, ABC123. Captures the really, really nice function. Let's see, another one. We've got, what, 5 more minutes? How about put in a new action. If I can spell, that would be good. For T values. Set multiple property values. Really simple. You just add properties and the values you want to set them to. So let's say I want to set prop my property value 1. We'll pull it from a keyword. It can be any keyword on the document type that's assigned to this queue. You can set it to a work item property if you've got work view objects coming through. The current date or time, current username, current user email, user groups. You can set these to constant values if you want, including tokens for keyword or date, eForm fields, and from XML paths, which is pretty cool. So let's set it to a keyword. We'll set it out. So you see it adds it in here in this list. So I want to set another property. We'll go prop my value 2. We'll set it from another keyword. Say account number. And you just keep adding these in one rule, or one action. You can set as many property values as you want. So that is set multiple property values. All right, so that's all I've got lined up for a demo right now.
There is a lot more things you can do, and there's a lot on the community. There's its own tab called OnBase 15. So for more information, if you guys are looking to go to version 15, you can get more information on the community. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, send us an email into support, or chat with us, and we can answer any of those questions you have. And as always, the community, or you can always get more information from our blog.
All right, questions? Anybody have questions?
And currently we don't have any questions out there.
No questions? Everything's clear as mud, huh? 15 is a pretty big release. It's got a lot of good stuff in it.
And as always, you want to put it in your test system and run it through your environment to make sure everything works as you would expect, and then put it into production. 15.
We're not sure what version would it be by the time this webinar launches.
Yep.
The current version is 15.0.0.21.
And a new thing with, they have changed the way they name the versions with this release. So your thick client and your core services build will all have the same number moving forward. So 21 is the current and latest release, and it is both of core and thick.
It is.
And actually, the Cofax capture, the VRS, and the eForms are the same as they were from our last webinar.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
Those haven't updated.
We do have a question.
We have a question.
So we'll go ahead and answer that, see if we can answer that for you.
Okay, so there is licensing for the Unity clients.
Yep, it's called Unity Client Server, and it needs to be purchased in order to use the Unity client.
Once you have Unity Client Server, it will utilize your normal concurrent named workstation user licenses.
Yep. So then, of course, our support information, our phone number, our email address. You can always get to us through live chat. there's many ways to get a hold of us. So if you need something or just have a question, feel free to send us your emails and we will answer those as soon as possible.
Next webinar is May, right? May sometime?
Yes, the third Wednesday in May. We do not have a topic yet chosen, so if you have a topic that you would like us to talk about, please send that our way. And then the next Naviant, our next conference, which is every October, and this year it will be at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
All right.
And there's our information again. So feel free to send us any questions you have, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you on our next webinar in 2 months.
Indeed. Have a great day, guys.
Yep, have a great day.